Hi, guys, welcome back to the Butterfly Effect podcast. In today's episode, we are going to be doing our Quarry character rankings. So, we did it before with the Until Dawn one, and there was quite a lot of success from it. And a lot of you guys have been requesting this, see how we find the Quarry characters. We have very mixed opinions to mixed views, so it'll be very interesting to see what you guys think of it. So, starting off, we're going to be having Jack today. Hello, Jack.
Hello.
Firstly, we based our Until Dawn list off of different things last time, really. Tell us what you're basing your Quarry list off of.
Wow, okay. So, if I had to put it in a nutshell, I would say that I'm basing this list on just the amount of enthusiasm I feel for said character when I'm playing as them or seeing them in the game. But I'm going to warn you now, guys, that logic does get flawed. And it's taken me quite a while to put this list together. It was fine for like the top 3 and the bottom 2. But it's that middle of the pack again when you start debating things with yourself, because I found that there was characters that had great personality, but they were barely in the game. It was really tough to weigh that up. So there's aspects of my list that even surprised me. So it'll be interesting to see what you guys think in the comments.
Okay, great. And also, one thing that is worth noting is that this is a top 9 list for the counsellors. So we're not going to include any of the Hackett's or Ian or anyone else like that. It's just going to be the 9 playable characters we play as. Jack, are you ready to get stuck in?
Yeah, let's get stuck in, shall we? So I'll tell you what, before we do get into the list of the counsellors, I am going to give an honourable mention to Travis Hackett. He is my favourite character in this game, but I think it's only fair that we do keep it as like we did with Until Dawn and we just focus on the playable characters. So, right, let's get on with number 9. Now, why is Nick number 9? I think it's pretty obvious. It's because he turns into a werewolf, right? So that completely halts his character arc. I know he does have a very good scene when he's shooting the gun with Jacob and Kaitlyn in chapter 2, but it just feels as though that he's just not, his personality doesn't shine on screen. And I do like the intimacy that he has with Abby. I think that's quite endearing and touching. There's just nothing really memorable about him compared to the other characters. And just as like another little sort of personality thing, he does have that scene with Abby where he's talking about how he just lets life guide him through like it's fate. I think Abby says that sounds really defeatist, and that's just something that I don't believe in. Like, I share Abby's view that life, you've got to almost attack it to get the things that you want. So it just, and then obviously when he turned, he was then absent for the rest of the game, and even his death, like he can either get shot or not. So it was almost like his character was literally thrown by the wayside the moment that he turned. So that's why he's in last for me. So I feel for me that he is where he is because he's a little bit too guarded. I do put him and Nick in a very similar vein, but where I think Ryan trumps Nick is that he does have a character arc of sorts. He is in the game long enough to see some sort of change. To be honest, I feel like he's quite rude. Like, maybe it's just because he's an introvert and he's quite shy, but to me it comes across as rude. Like at the start of the game when Jacob says hi to him and he just sort of sits there and gestures with him because he's listening to his podcast. He knows that Dylan's into him, and yet he sort of slags him off for wanting to go into science. Like, it's not even seemingly in a friendly way, or at least it doesn't seem that way to me. And I don't know, like, I just, even this could be a criticism on the acting as well. It could be just the voice It could be the fact that there's not much facial expressions going on. You couldn't read the guy, and I feel like that he does develop as the story goes on, but it's just not compelling enough for me to put him higher up in this list. I think another big factor is the fact that it feels as though that his character is told by other people. I think I've said this in the podcast, right, where everyone seems to say, oh, he's this mysterious, brooding loner figure. And rather than learning that through him sort of showing you, it's like his character's constantly told, and I suppose that is a big negative for me as well. Okay, so we're now starting to get towards the middle section of this list, and this is where things start to get a little bit tasty for me, where it's just very difficult to place characters for specific reasons. I know that's going to shock a lot of people, but what I'd say off the bat is that personality-wise, Max is great. Like, I think he's got great chemistry with Laura, and, you know, he's in this predicament, he's in the prison, he's obviously got persistence to get through the month, and obviously try to stay strong for Laura, even though he knows he's a werewolf and stuff. But you just don't see him enough. And I do genuinely believe that he should have been playable in chapter 7, if not the whole chapter, and certainly a segment of it, because post chapter 7 you then, I mean, in my first playthrough I didn't actually see him again, but you then see him in chapter 10 potentially when he comes out the treehouse, and it's just a straight up, do you swim, and if you do you get killed, or if you stay you're then banking on Laura surviving and killing Silas, I think, to then have that reunion, which is a touching scene. But I don't know. He doesn't, because he's not in it enough, and this is where the bias comes in. It's difficult to put him higher up for me. So I perfectly accept that will be controversial, but hey ho, it's my list. Again, the girl's spunky, she's really fun, she's got leadership qualities, and I almost see her as like the moderator of the group. When people start bickering, when sort of like the boat is starting to get rocked, she'll sort of swoop in there and sort things out. She did it with Ryan and Jacob, and she did it with Jacob and Nick, of course, when they were competing over the peanut butter pops. And she's a great character, but, you know, in terms of like her actual scenes, what does she do? She holds a phone up, takes a picture of something. She has the scrapyard bit, but to be honest, even then, she's not even that proactive. Like, you're basically playing as Dylan in that point, so she's like a side character. And of course, you have the scene in the house as well, or the lodge, where you're with Bobby. But even then, it doesn't really matter what you do because it still plays out the same way. She always still legs it back, and for me it's just she's riddled with plot armor. Like, she has to get to chapter 9, and in most people's playthroughs she probably makes it to chapter 10. And as far as the title of Final Girl goes, it doesn't feel worthy enough to me. It doesn't feel like she's gone through enough to get that title. So yeah, as great a personality as she is, for me, Kaitlyn is number 6. Do I think that she's as bad as Emily in Until Dawn? Of course not. If you know my ranking for Until Dawn, you'll know that Emily's further down the list than what Emma is on this list. But I would say it probably is her morality that prevents her from getting higher up on this list. She has a nice one-to-one with Abby before about how she's going to approach it with Nick, and she then just completely throws that back in her face later on. And I do understand the fact that it's just a game, but she doesn't have to French the guy, as they put it. You know, it could have been like a peck on the cheek, a peck on the lips, and leave it at that, and that way she's played the game, but she's also not rubbed Abby's face in it, and she's not rubbed Jacob's face in it, who she knows is struggling because of the whole fact that their flings come to an end. And you know what? I do completely get that. It's just a fling. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. But where I think she does change is that when she's on her own, she's got the whole vlogging thing going on. She's very well put together. Like it clearly cares about her image, and she's dressed very well. She looks cool, and you know what? She even handles herself really well in the treehouse with the werewolf. I know we joke about the whole taking a photo and that sort of thing, but she does manage to bring it together, use the zip line well, and get out of there. I think another reason why she may be where she is on the list and not higher up is because, for me, she just had a bland playthrough. I feel like Emma is pretty much designed, like, in order for it to be a better playthrough, that she has to get infected, whereas in my playthrough, she just didn't. She just sat in the car in chapter 6, then went to the basement, and then rolled some bullets under the door. So, sort of bland, but she does have a memorable personality. You can't fault her that. So she's pretty much slap bang in the middle, higher up than I expected, but yeah, that's why Emma's there. And I think this is one of the reasons why I ship Jacob and Emma, not because they spend time together in the game, but on a moral level, they're both slightly corrupt, because let's face it, none of the events would have taken place had Jacob not sabotaged the van. Of course, you can be sympathetic to him on some level as well, but does that justify his actions? No. But another reason they could be flipped around is because they're sort of actors. I mean, Emma says it herself, but Jacob is similar in his personality, whereby I think he likes to play the funny jock and be noticed and have, and to be an attention whore, really. But you can tell that he's almost like this very inward-looking, very sensitive young man as well. I feel that that's what Emma is, but they almost project the louder version of themselves because they are deeply insecure. So the reason as to why he's higher up the list is that he just has plenty of things going on. I know you can say that he gets taken out of the game significantly later on, but I think you could argue that about many characters because other characters come into the fold. But of course, he can potentially have that scene with Emma at the end where he is remorseful and he does own up. Whereas I think with Emma, at least in my playthrough, she didn't have the opportunity to be remorseful to Abby, about kissing Nick and all that jazz. So yeah, Jacob's number 4. So now we're getting into the gold, silver, bronze territory. So who's taken 3rd place? So for me, it's Laura. The reason being is that she just has a really great character arc. Like, she starts off on an adventure with her boyfriend, and she's clearly quite dependent on him, which you can understand because, they're saying about how they're lost and how they want to get to Hackett's Quarry and stuff like that. But she really grows into her own through the circumstances that she's put through, and she frankly becomes a bit of a badass. She's very intelligent, very resourceful, and empathetic to Max when he becomes a werewolf. And she's very persistent. She did have an opportunity to leave the prison when she got free, but she stuck around because she wanted to help Max, and she had a goal in mind that she was to kill Chris Hackett. Whether you agree with that or not, you can't question her persistence and her just general drive to get the job done. I suppose the reason she doesn't get higher up for me is that she does leave, through her choices, a path of destruction in her wake when you think about it. I mean, I know we'll touch on this in a future episode, but if it wasn't for her being selfish and not listening to Travis, they would have, Max would have been all right. They went to the Hackett's Quarry. She didn't even speak to Chris. She thought she could just turn up and get her own way. Obviously, her flicking off the power, obviously unknowingly, can kill Jacob. And as well, like, do you know what I mean? The fact of the matter is, like, she has the opportunity at the end of the day to kill a little boy in Silas, or at least a young boy. So, like, there's lots of situations, and there's going to be more I haven't mentioned, where Laura can really dramatically impact people's lives. But I think I overlook that because I just see mainly her good qualities. I think for me, it's purely humour based. There's certain one-liners that really land for me. I like the characterisation he has when someone's got a gun and you can see it in his face. And I think this really comes through the performance of Miles Robbins. Like, he really sold the character for me, and I think he's so high because he's believable. He's very authentic as a character, very genuine. And also as well, like, he does have that heroic moment that I suppose deep inside he probably wants when he's, asking for the gun. But at the end of the game at the scrapyard, he can save Kaitlyn from getting infected. He's got the heavy metal music in the background, and he's got to work the crane in order to save her from the werewolf. So overall, there are just far more positives than negatives for me with Dylan. He's also in some pretty cool scenes, obviously where he can get his arm cut off as well. And obviously he's the one that asks for help over the radio as well. So not only is he funny, but he's also proactive. And generally, I think it's just the performance that sold me with Dylan. I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, oh, she doesn't do that much. She's not really in the game, certainly if you get her killed off in Chapter 6. And this is why I said at the start that my logic's going to be completely flawed. I do have a bias towards Abby. She's just really cute, really sweet, innocent, you could add. And she just appreciates the simpler things in life. She's happy to go off on her own and do some drawing. And obviously she has a thing for Nick, and obviously I've said in a previous episode as well that it's just nice to see a girly girl. There's a temptation today, all women have got to be loud and strong and very in your face, and she just counteracts that completely. And similarly to Dylan, I just think that she's very authentic, and there's like subtle touches that Ariel Winter did as Abby in her performance, like the little grins when her and Nick are walking through the woods. You can see the grin on her face, and you can see that she's really happy. And it's little things like that. It just makes things feel a lot more believable. And I'd go as far as to say that of all the characters, playable characters, across Until Dawn and The Quarry, she's probably the one that I had a biggest connection with. For some reason, I don't know why, I just wanted to save her. So it was gutting when I did manage to get her killed off first in my initial playthrough. So yeah, I mean, that's my list. I know there's going to be bounds of contention within that, and like I repeat, I'll stress that there's certain decisions you have to make when you're going through this list. You have to decide what's more important. Is it their personality? Is it how relevant they are in the game? And just overall, I found it very difficult to put this together, mate. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that, if you wanted to add on anything, but yeah.
Not really. I can't say too much because, the next list will be my one. But yeah, surprising in some areas, but we've matched a lot on a lot of stuff. But there's also some really heavy, drastic changes in there as well. So I guess we'll get to that bridge when we come to it. But no, cheers for giving us your list. It's awesome to hear someone else's thoughts like that. And I imagine it's going to be different for everyone. Like, these characters are so believable and human that I imagine people have like Dylan first, others might have Ryan first, some people might have like Jacob or Laura first. So I can imagine it just being really diverse, and there's definitely going to be notes we hit with people that they're not going to agree with, but hey, it's the fun of making these lists, right?
It is. You know what? The bit for me, it's from 4 down to 7. I could easily swap Kaitlyn and Max and put them where Jacob and Emma are. But again, it just comes back to that thing of how long, and just my enthusiasm when I was playing as them, because I wasn't with them long enough. I didn't feel like I could really get to know them and understand them and see character development within them. So it feels wrong at some level, but there we go. I've done the list now. So
no, cheers for doing that, Jack. Pretty awesome. Let us know what you guys thought of it. Have a go at Jack if you disagree with him. Praise him if you agree with him. Just tell us your thoughts, guys. Stick around later this week where I'll be giving you my list, and then we'll see who's got the more agreeable version. But thank you very much for joining, guys. Anything to add, Jack?
No, not at all. Honestly, just leave your comments, leave us your lists as well. And we'll see you back next time for when we do Liam's ranking list.
All right, you take care, guys. See you soon.
Bye-bye.